Hello my friends, and welcome back to this week's picture. Today we're going to tackle this lovely picture of the sheep with the ewe and a nice misty field. The idea for this one was a crisp, foggy morning, sort of in January, February, and I wanted it to be misty in the background so you couldn't really see the hills and things, and the last lingering bits of snow on the ground. So it's not too bad. It's not too hard a picture to do, although it looks complicated. It's more about I found making sure the sheep look like sheep. The rest of it's pretty straightforward, and if you've done any of my other pictures, you should be totally fine doing this one. You just have to concentrate on the sheep a bit and maybe get yourself some reference pictures, which is what I had to do. So anyway, here we are. Let's get on with it and I'll show you how it's done. As always, the drawing is in the description box below. You can go and print it off for free if you want to. But you can probably sketch this out without needing to do that, but if you can't, it's there for you. Go and help yourself. So to start off, I've done the sky in a sort of grey blue, as I say, I'm thinking fog here really, and the bits I'm doing now are a bit of green mixed in with the grey colour that we've got, because it's just supposed to be that hint of colour, you know, so you can tell that there's a field somewhere out there against the sky, but I don't want them really to stand out too much. So I've just used a bit of green with the same grey sky colour. So when you're doing this, you just want to aim for the fact that you can vaguely see it. So the two colours you just saw are what I'm going to use as the field colours. As you saw in the beginning thing, it's quite an orangey picture. We've got lots of dry, dead grass and things like that. So I'm just thinly layering it over. And we'll come back to that. I wanted this hill to stand out a little bit more, but you'll see I'll still layer some more of that sky colour over it, just to give it a bit of extra fog and blend the colours in a bit. And I wanted to mark out a little bit of definition, so this is slightly a darker colour again, but I'm still trying to keep it muted. We're going to have some walls or hedges in the distance as well. You can see I did this over Christmas. I'm wearing a knitted Christmas jumper. Sorry, it was a little bit distracting, I hadn't realised. And these I put in as they're going to be hedgy trees, things like that in the distance, but again, when I've done them, I'm literally going to go over them with the sky colour and fog them out quite a lot, so there's no real detail in this. You can just, you know, just have a thing in mind and roughly do it, because a lot of it won't show up, not very well. And for this is going to be the walls of the cottage, and again this is a little bit of brown. I'm just making it slightly darker. I haven't used the sky colour this time, so it's like a beige and some brown, and I'm just doing the walls. They don't have to be perfect. Again, it's foggy, so just have a sort of stone colour, but I've gone for the warm orangey stone, not a grey stone, and I've just outlined the chimney in that in just a little bit of darker brown and some chimney pots, and I'm doing all the walls. I just want to think about where whatever light there is would be coming from, so we're going to have slightly darker walls in the shady bit, as you can see. But I'm not, because of the fog and the distance, I'm not doing any like actual stone work in this. I'm just blocking in some stone colour. And I have done the roof tiles in I've used black with a little bit of white in, so it's a broken up black more than anything. And although I normally say I don't use black, I'm actually going to be going over it with a frosty colour so it won't look so bad. And I'm using the same colour to do the windows, although I do go back into them again with a little bit of the blacky whitey stuff, just so that it breaks it up, because the windows will all be reflecting the sky. And this is just a white, very, very thinly spread across to look like frost on the roofs. So we're going to end up with a building, but it's not going to be a really technically complex one. And in case I forget to mention it, I do later on doing the windows here, this is in white as well, I do later on go back over the edges of the roof and things with a little bit of dark brown, because I found the black a bit jarring, just not the whole roof, just the top edge between the two chimneys. So you might see that it changes very slightly, it's very subtle. So anyway, the windows are just a little bit of white done with the crosses, and I just do whatever windows you fancy going across there. You don't have to do exactly what I've done in the picture, you can just take it as an idea and do your own building if you want to. The biggest bit I find with this one is because I have to lift it off the thing a lot to make sure that it doesn't all felt itself to the surface. Because the lines are so fine on the windows, sometimes every time you pull it up they start to pull out, even though you've needle felted it in, they start to pull out a bit. So you might need to go back in and just straighten those up before you frame it or anything. And this is just going to be some blue and that to do, I thought I'd have a wooden shed on the side of the house. So that's all this is. Again, you could do any colour you like. I just wanted to keep everything fairly pale. I'm speeding through the picture a little bit because some of it's so obvious what I've done that, you know, you don't need me to talk to you like your children. But I'm doing some thin lines to make some wooden planks, and then I blocked in the stable, well, I don't think it's a stable, it's just a barn, with some black again. But I do like to mix the black with a little bit of white or something so it's not really solid. And then along here, next to the little hut, barn thing, there's a bit of a stone wall, so I've used some more of that house colour to put in a stone wall, just a little bit. And then I'm going to put a bit of a fence here as well. Again, you don't have to be perfect about with the like a fence to have everything absolutely upright. But you do need to do your best on the houses to have everything that's supposed to be going upright. Otherwise that looks odd, but fences don't look odd if they're a little bit skew-if. And if you look on the wall by the shed, I've put a little bit of snow on the top there as well. Now if you go back and look at those two brown colours that I showed you earlier, that's all I've done is mix those together, and I'm covering the whole of this area in it. As it gets towards the front, I've added a little bit more of the orange than the brown, so you can see it's slightly paler near the house and slightly darker round by the sheep. And I'm just adding some frosty snow on the ground here. Just do it in thin layers and just keep it patchy. Now we're going to do the tree. My usual way of doing trees, you can do it my way or you can do any way that suits you. As long as you end up with a tree, it doesn't matter. But this is just I haven't mixed any colour in with this, it's just a dark brown. And as I say, remember that branches aren't necessarily straight, they do have little kinks and things in them. And you can put as many branches as you want on this. Now I'm going over, you can see how thinly I do this, I'm just going over very thinly with a bit of lighter brown. Because I want the dark to show through it, that's what gives you the texture. And again, this brown is exactly the same brown I've used on the ground. I'm keeping it fairly muted, there's not too many colours in this. It's just how you mix them. And this is just a little bit of highlight up the branches of the tree. If you wanted to, you could add a touch of green on the tree to be little moss or something like that. Or even some ivy. If you really want to get in depth with it, you could add some green ivy up it. But I didn't want to do too much because for me, I wanted the sheep to be the main part, and anything else you add lots of detail to will draw your eye. But of course, you have to add enough detail that it looks realistic. Do make sure you add a few small thin branches to your tree, because you wouldn't really just have big chunky branches on a tree, you would have thin branches where the leaves grow. And this is going to be a fence, but again, if you look, I'm using more or less the same colours as the field. You can add a little bit of extra brown into it obviously, so you've got a bit more wood colour. And this is some of the dark brown again that I've used on the tree, and I'm just going up for the shady sides. Now those are the colours I'm going to mix together, and I'm quite well, and then I'm going to use them as grass. So I've mixed them enough that you've got a little bit of variety when I put it down. And you're not got all one colour, but I don't care what goes down once I've done it, how I pull it apart. So if you see, I've pulled it into long strands, and then I felt it in halfway, and then I fold the bottom up so it looks like you've got grass growing. And that's a little bit of shadow at the bottom, but that again, I pull the base brown that we put on first up over it, so it looks like the shadows behind more grass. So when I'm putting this down, I literally use my needle very carefully and pull the surrounding areas up, so that it always looks like it's growing up like grass does. But this is in tufts. If you look in a field in the winter, quite often you just have tufts of grass and then nothing much else. So that's what's in my head for this, is like the tufts amongst the field. I'm just trying to work out where I put the sheep's legs. And this is going to be some shadow, so this is what I would do with this. What I did is black, a hint of brown. You can see up in the corner I've got a ball of it. Black with a hint of brown and a little bit of white. Just needs to be dark enough to be a shadow, and put it on fairly thinly. But again, we're going to go back over this and put some tufts of grass and things like that. As you see, I put it down and then felted it halfway, pulled the bottom back up. So you've got like a double layer really. Bit of dark, just the dark brown from the tree, and then just pull the lighter beigey colour that's on the ground up around it. Do have a reference picture for the sheep, because the eyes drove me mad on this one, because they do have quite a specific shape. And then, would you believe, I actually sat here for ages thinking, what colour's a sheep? But I know it sounds silly, but it's like, what colour's a sheep? And then I realised that I have all this wool that hasn't been dyed that's sheep coloured. So I was having a really dippy moment. So I found some sheep coloured wool in my stack, and this is what I was using. So the face, I can't help you a great deal with. You really do need a reference picture for the face, but do make sure, like I say, I keep checking. Even after I'd finished this picture, I'm still adjusting the eyes. Do check the eyes and make sure that in the right thing. And I do also change the dots in the sheep's eyes as well because they were too big. And I've just got a little bit of pink, or actually it's red and white are mixed together, just to do a little bit of warm colour inside the ears. Yeah, so the sheep is actually sheep colour, although that changes drastically in a minute. I just blocked that in because I wanted to make sure it looked right against the colour of the snow. So I'm still adding tufts and things, and the sheep's legs are just dark brown, and a bit of grey I mixed in with that as well. But it's all done in very thin layers because I want it to have a texture. I didn't want it to look smooth, and because obviously sheep's legs aren't smooth, they have fur on. So this is where your reference picture is going to come in very handy. Just when you look at a reference picture, if you're going to use it for the colours and things like that, make sure you've got one lit up in the same way you have in your picture. Wherever you want your light source in the picture, try and make sure that the picture or the photograph that you use has got the light source in the same direction. So it's basically where's the sun or whatever, so that creates the shadows. Otherwise your picture will look weird because you'll have the shadows on the sheep in one direction and the shadows on the tree in another. And you can see how I use my needle to try and mix. Quite often it works, but it was a very woolly wool I put on, I can't explain it better, a very woolly wool I put on the sheep to start with, so it didn't move around the picture quite as nicely for me to mix, but you just keep adding some shadowy colours where it's needed. And I say use the needle if you can, but you have to do it gently because you'll snap them, they're very thin. So all the colours I'm using on this sheep, so even like excuse me, even like the darker colours, I do mix with a touch of the base sheep colour so that everything stays as it should. What am I saying? So always look, the shadows look right because they're still the shadows of that colour. I'm hoping that makes sense. So I was making this picture over Christmas, and it had to go in the naughty corner for a couple of days because I was getting a little bit annoyed with the fact that I couldn't seem to get the eyes right. So just don't worry, if you have like me, it starts to irritate you, don't throw it away or anything, just put it away for a little bit and come back to it, because even I have pictures where you know it's going to be an okay picture when you're finished, you just can't seem to do it. You're like a writer's block, but an artist's block. And I did put it away for a few days. I was having a moan on my Facebook group telling people I was having trouble with it. So, we all do, but don't throw it away, just put it down for a little bit and then come back to it. For the lamb, I've used the sheep colour again that I had on the big sheep, but I've mixed it with a little white or cream because I wanted the lamb to be a little bit lighter in colour, because it would be hopefully less dirty than the grown-up sheep. It's not been around to roll in the mud long enough, so I wanted it to look a little bit lighter. And this picture was actually chosen, I end of last year, 2024, I gave people a poll. I think it's in the community post under this video, be under this video in the community section, and on my Facebook groups and things, asking which out of a selection of pictures they'd like me to do for January, and everybody chose this one. So it was quite nice because I wasn't sure what I was going to be making, and it was a good choice. Yeah, if you're enjoying this picture, please do give me a like and a subscribe and share if you like to. It helps my channel. I'm hoping this year I might be able to get the channel up to 1,000 subscribers. It seems like a bit of a dream thing, really, because I don't know how many people are interested in this sort of thing, but it will be quite something. So that's my hopes for this year, is to see if I can get the channel up to 1,000 subscribers. We shall see. But it is helpful if you subscribe. That would mean a lot, because these obviously do take a long time to do. Oh, and yes, because I get told off by my children for all the time I do in this, I now have varying links in the description box for things. I think there might be a couple of affiliate links. You can see how technical I am, but that's only for, like, to show you where I get the felt pad from if you want it. It doesn't cost you anything, and apparently it gives me a little bit. And also I believe they call it buy me a coffee. It's all there because I get into trouble if I don't. Anyway, back to the sheep. Thank you if you use any of that. I'm just filling in the grass here where some of it needs to be a little darker and things like that as well. I want the sheep's legs and things to stand out, so I go back and I put some dark where the light colours on the legs are. Sorry, I'll start again. I put some dark grass next to the light coloured of the legs of the sheep so that the legs stand out, or some light colour near the dark parts of the legs sheep. You'll see what I mean. Here I'm just putting obviously a little bit of pink in for the sheep's ear. That's not the whole of the sheep's ear, that's just the inside of the ear that I will go and outline in a bit. Again, sheep's eyes. I definitely couldn't have done the sheep on this picture without a reference picture. The rest of it I'd have been alright with, but the sheep were quite something. Sorry, I'm just laughing because I can still feel the irritation, even just doing the voiceover for it. When I first put the face on, it looked like a lion cub, which is why I took the eye and the nose and that back off, because I redid them. And if you look as well, I've actually outlined, I don't know how I missed that bit, I've outlined the little lamb's ears as well in a little bit of white. If you have any suggestions for pictures you'd like, anything like that, do please leave them in the comments. I do make a note of them, and I have kind of planned out this year's pictures, but I'm quite happy to swap them out if something else is suggested that I think is a good idea. I will definitely do that. Really, you can leave comments about whatever you like. I'm quite happy, I will answer them. Or if you're struggling with something and I can help, I'm quite happy to do that as well. These sheep are all the colours are being put on thinly. I've layered it up thinly all the way through, which is why you get so much of the texture and shading when you look at them now. Now down here I'm just doing tufts of grass with the same brown I made the blocks of grass out of, just mixed in various bits, and I'm just twirling them to make thicker bits at the front, because I know that the actual edge of the picture will be covered up anyway, so I'm just taking it down to the edge and pulling it back up the other side like that. Just make sure you do different shades of the colour, don't all have the bright or the dark, mix it up a bit. This is just to give a bit of interest at the front, and that, because you've got something obvious like that, it gives a little bit of depth to the picture as well. And you can put these anywhere you like really, but if you're going to do big obvious bits, then keep them to the front of the picture. I was just covering up where the hooves were a little bit more. I was doing this because I hadn't put the hooves on the sheep, and if you can't see them, they've got to be standing in something, which is why I made sure I'd got some long grass around them, otherwise it didn't make sense. And I'm not fussy about the colours on this grass, so long as they are the colours I blended earlier, which is, you know, it's all the same. I can plonk it anywhere I like because I know it will match. Well, this is more or less the end of this picture. I hope you've enjoyed it. Do let me know in the comments below if you have. And you know, it's definitely not a beginner picture, basically because of the sheep. A beginner could do the background, but the sheep take a bit of concentration. So intermediate, it would be fine. If you felted a few things before and you feel like tackling something a little bit more faffy, shall we say, the sheep are a good one. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's picture. Well, I've got some interesting things coming up this year, not just pictures, but other things that, as well. I'm really looking forward to showing you and sharing with you. So until next time, happy felting, and I will see you next Friday. Bye for now.